Hello everyone. We are glad to have with us today Lushin Dubey, and we'll be talking to her about TIE, Theatre in Education. Thank you very much, ma'am, for being here with us. It's been a pleasure interacting with you over the last 5 days. And there are a few questions that we still want to ask you. So, to start with, could you tell us about your journey so far? How has it been?
You mean at Soil, or do you mean generally my journey with theatre?
Journey with theatre.
Okay, like I told you on the first day when I came and met you people, that I've had a fairly checkered kind of career, so to speak, with theatre. I did my master's in history. I did my Master of Science in Education. I taught for several years in the US and in India in the American school. I ran a boutique with my sister. I worked for a buying house, a Dutch buying house. But theatre started for me actually in 4th grade when I won my first international prize in theatre, when I played a divorcee with gloves and a wig, a white-haired wig. And when I won that prize, I just did it for a lark, this play with others. And when I won the first prize, it took me aback. I sat back, I thought about it, and I said, wow, this is great. This is something I've enjoyed, and I've got recognition for it, because I truly believe that most of us do things for recognition. I don't mean that recognition in the sense of an attachment to the ego. I mean that if you're doing something which is enjoyable, wonderful, you want to share it with others. So I did do that in high school. I was exposed to theatre, not so much, but substantial amount. I think where I really came into very close proximity of it being with me, staying with me, is when I started work with Barry John when I was about 14 or 15. I was the youngest in the group, theatre action group, and I continued doing theatre for the next 6 to 7 years. Throughout my college, more actually, maybe even 8 years. After college, I got married very soon after my master's, and I remember missing all, the Miss LSR contest, or this talk, or this debate, because I was busy learning my lines. I was running behind the walls of Lady Shrinam College to, learn my lines to get into the next play. So theatre was really, really very close to me at that time. After college, like I said, I got married, I went abroad, and I did do theatre with mentally challenged kids, because formal education is not something they adapt to very quickly. So theatre was something they saw the joy and the fun and the liberation that they could feel with a form like theatre. So that happened in the US, and then I came back and set up 2 theatre companies. One is Kids World, which is with youth, and one is Theatre World, where I do a lot of work with strong subjects. I often do solos myself, I direct, I act, and I'm very happy and very grateful to the universe that I'm able to travel vastly with these productions within cities in India and overseas. So that's really been my journey, and a part of my journey now is also coming to Soil, which I have been doing for the last 3 years, and it's been really fantastic, because I work with people who, most of them have been untouched by theatre or not experienced theatre. And excuse me, if I can give them the joy that I sense they are getting, then what can be better fulfillment in your journey?
Right. On that note, I have another question for you. So what do you think are the challenges faced by MBA students while they are learning theatre? And what do they take away at the end of the course from your experience of that?
Yeah. In a sense, it's tougher to work with a group which is like the BPL group, the group that I work with in Soil. Though I'm happy to say that the numbers have been increasing, but I think it's a double-edged thing, There are people who have had no exposure to theatre, so they come in completely fresh, like a blank slate when they come there. So it's challenging to involve them in something that is totally foreign to them, foreign for them, and at the same time there are engineers, there are all these people who have been really into hardcore studies. So for them to step out, some may feel, I don't know, I've not experienced this though, that is there any weight to what I'm doing? For them, I remember one student in my first session, he had said that I've always thought theatre is something, I said wafery, he said yes. I said something which is, very thin like a cloud, he said yes. But at the end of the 5 days, he said, I've taken away a lot of reality back from this whole 5-day session with you, ma'am. And I said, that for me is a huge thing. Because in this whole juggernauting world, in this rat race of us trying to find a place in the sun as people who have done well, what is considered well, by society, by your own definition of what you think is well, we often forget that there is also this wonderful space where you need to liberate, where you need freedom, where you need to be in touch with the real you, and how you can bring the real you into a work environment. Somehow this gets lost in our race to define ourselves in the work sphere. And at the age group at which I meet all of you, obviously you're in that space. So to be in touch with you and create that self-awareness where you can bring you into the frame, into the picture, is one of my biggest goals. And if I can do this, and if I can make you get in touch with the magnified you, even if it's 30%, 40%, 20%, because after all, each person is an individual. For some it's a toe-dipping experience, for others it's a knee-dipping experience, for others it's a completely submersion experience where people come out to me and say, when you're doing the next show, please tell me because I want to be a part of it. And that for me is a real winner. So the challenges have been to make those people who are pretty ground in that format of seeking that self-definition of an income, how well you're doing, where you're placed, to experience this self-awareness and realize that it has equal weight. That's the biggest challenge. And when I see that even if you've brushed past it and embraced some of it, for me it's very moving. It's a very moving experience. So that's how I define it.
Right. So one of the pillars, one of the main pillars of SOIL is ethics.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been working on ethics through theatre for the last 5 days. Mm-hmm. Could you please give us your take on how do you plan ahead of instilling ethics through theatre?
Okay. Firstly, theatre in itself, has the biggest dictum, which I have said to you all as students, that there is no right or wrong in theatre, because it's like you open your wings and you're allowed to fly, but you mustn't hurt anybody. That's one of its core dictums. I said, you don't laugh at somebody, you laugh with somebody, or one family, or one unit. So we start on the premise of complete unity. We start with the premise of we are one family. You don't hurt your family members. You speak the truth to your family members. You try to be as real as possible with your family members, good or bad. So I try to start from that. The root is that. The jad, so to speak, is that. That is theatre in itself. I mean, I can elaborate on this vastly, but I think you know what I'm saying. Now bringing ethical dilemmas, etc., try to create a link with your subject matter. I think it's fair to say that you cannot do justice to it more than one case study, or maybe possibly 1.5, And the idea is to role play, to see yourselves. As you saw, we did many exercises of role play. To see yourself in a concluding scenario where you create from A to Z, to see yourself in the same scenario being enacted by several groups so that you see how others might have done it, what looks comfortable, what looks like, oh, it was such a beautiful gel where you were taking it. So it's like looking at a mirror unto oneself with the subject of ethics of theatre and ethics as it is in your formatted case studies. I think that is my aim. That's the way I like to move with this. And it's up to you all to tell me whether you experienced something through this. Did you sort of, as we did in the morning today, when I was getting feedback, that Tell me, did you experience? What did you experience? What did you experience? That is very important. This feedback between a guide, which I am, and you all is very important for an open-ended field like theatre, and linking it with something as stated as a written case study.
I agree to that. Okay, my last question to you. What brings you back to soil every year? You've been here since the last 3 years, since inception.
Yeah.
What is it that brings you back every year?
I think it's the students. I think it's what I get from the students. I think it's something different for me because I'm constantly creating, directing, acting, and here I'm not directing as much as interacting, interfacing with a completely different group from the one I work with on stage. I work with actors, I work with people who already know a heck of a lot about theatre and its manifestations, its effects in real life, blah blah blah. But in here, when I come here, I love the fact that so many of you come with, which is evident on the first day, with skepticism, question marks, wonder what this is going to be like. And then the beauty is to see the involvement, because theatre is all about human involvement. Okay, that's why I always say that the word acting is a complete misnomer. It's all about feeling. If I feel, I mean, right now we're both feeling, because you're nodding your head a certain way, you're smiling a certain way, which may not be the case tomorrow if we are actually doing it with conviction and honesty. Every day it will change. So for me, theatre is something that is conviction and honesty. That's what it is, and feeling. Acting somehow, for me, there's a link with the performance, and I'm very allergic to a performance. I take much easily to something that is just in the moment, now, here, and this is something also, whenever I do screen work, it's a lot to do with that. People say, you do both, so then what do you find? I find both are friends. One is less is more, on screen less is more. On stage, there's no, it's boundless. You can do less is more, you can do more is more, you can just stretch the rubber band this much, this much, this much, short of it breaking, and still create an absolutely impactful presence. And I also believe that a lot has to do with the energy and the life of a guide vis-a-vis the interaction with the students. And that's why I say to each and every one of you that when you're out there in that world interacting with human beings, be it a presentation, be it trying to sell a product with 3 people, whatever it is about a genuine human communion. And if you keep that in mind, things will happen which go out of the box, which are unpredictable, which are surprises, and that is the joy of life. And so maybe the end product has to be that you sell either what you say or what you create, because it's all about that. It's all about, economics is all about that. But in all this, keep your truly human. That's who you are. Whether it's a Rahul or whether it's a Akhilesh or it's whoever you are. What is your strength that you bring into it, for me, is very fundamental to human communion.
At the end, I would just like to say that it has been wonderful interacting with you.
Thank you.
We've had the best days of our life, the 5 days that we've spent with you.
I want it to be written etched in stone, and I want it to be taped.
We have learned some real valuable lessons about life from you.
Thank you so much.
Interacting and communicating.
Thank you so much. And I hope to keep the connection going, because with some of my soil students till today, I would say there were 6 of them, I'm still in touch. So for me, that's the biggest win.
Thank you so much for being here, ma'am.
Thanks.
And thanks for your time today.
Thank you.